What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the UNC Football Show, brought to you by TarHillIllustrated.com. I'm THS staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, is our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we got some fun topics to hit on in this one. This is not going to be looking at our rundown, at least, and I probably should knock on wood on this because you never know. I don't think this is going to be a 45-plus minute episode like we like to have during the season. So I'll go ahead and throw that out there. But like I said, AJ, you never know with us. Who knows what rabbit hole we might go down.
We crushed the basketball one in 25 minutes last week.
I was proud of us for that, man. I was proud of us for that.
It's May. And we got the drops going now, so we can handle a lot of things in the drops. But I say we should be out of here by 25 minutes. So that would be 24 from now. So we're kind of.
I agree. I'm keeping track. I know what time it is on the clock, so I'm going to keep track and see if we can do that. So
since baseball's had so much success with the pitch clock this year, which I'm a traditionalist, but I love the pitch clock. The games are quicker. We're going to have a podcast clock on this.
I like that, man. We need one. Put a little countdown on the top right corner and just see how long it takes us. No, that's fantastic. We'll try to keep this one moving for the people too, because AJ, no one wants to hear us talk for 50 minutes during the offseason. I'll tell you that for free. Let's dive into this one, AJ. First thing I want to talk about, portal activity hasn't been a ton for Carolina. I know they did land a walk-on kicker from Clemson and Liam Boyd, really the only activity that's gone on. Any updates you can give us? Are you surprised that's really the only thing we've seen so far? I mean, what's the deal with that?
Well, they looked at quarterbacks right away, but the portal closing quickly, it made this process a hell of a lot easier for them and for us to cover. And there weren't any quarterbacks that interested them, so they'll revisit that in December after the regular season when the portal opens again, if they deem that as a need. So it might not be a need. A lot of that depends on Connor Harrell and Tad Hudson, Connor Harrell in particular. So we'll see. So I think that they'll have their antennas up during the fall to see who might enter and what they hear through the grapevine, because they hear a lot. Everybody hears a lot about that stuff now because dudes start looking long before they leave. So I think that happened quickly and was pushed out of the way. We had reported that was something they might look at. They did. Nothing was there. Offensive line is something that they really focused on a lot as well, and are still looking, but it's unlikely they're going to bring anybody in because the price tag's too high. And that's something that surprised me when I learned that, for example, for them, they want a rotation lineman. They don't want someone who's going to come and spend 2 years working before they get on the field. They have a lot of guys in a program like that already. So the mission was, let's get someone who could be in the 8-man rotation. Let's get someone who could play two positions, who could back up at guard, back up at tackle, something like that. And the price tag for those guys is astronomical. You would be stunned. It's almost like NFL minimum salary type numbers. So an example is a backup center at App State went to a Big 12 school and got $150,000. He was a backup at App. So you're talking about here that they're looking for guys who might be starters somewhere. All right. Maybe in the MAC or the Sun Belt. They already got one from the Sun Belt. Someone they think could come in and be a rotation guy, and they're commanding a lot more than that. So nothing's probably happening there. They didn't look too hard at other positions. I think maybe glanced around at some inside linebackers. They thought about maybe running back because the thinking was perhaps they would lose a running back or two, but they didn't. So you could say they gain in the portal by nobody entering the portal from the running back room. So that's pretty much it. What you see now, that's pretty much the roster. The kid from Clemson, he's a walk-on. He's not a scholarship player. They're bringing him in to see what he could do. And I remember his name from high school, so he's got a good leg, but he was looking for a new home. I think a lot of that will be competition. Ryan Coe missed a couple of kicks late in the spring. So much of being a kicker is mental. So you bring a kid in to sharpen him mentally, get him rolling, and see what happens. A lot of times kickers can surprise. Mm-hmm. You bring a bunch of guys in that room and some dude may emerge that you didn't expect to emerge. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's pretty much it. It's quiet. They're offering a lot of kids in the 2025 class right now. Mm-hmm. And a couple even still in 24. So the focus has really been more on recruiting. And also the the QB situation with respect to the portal in December, let's wait and see what Michael Merdinger does in high school this year, because they love him. Mm-hmm. And I know that Chip Lindsey was down watching him Tuesday of this week. That he was in the spring jamboree down at Cardinal Gibbons in Fort Lauderdale, and one of the rivals national analysts was down there watching and said Merdinger looked awesome. And he agreed with Dina's belief that, and also the staff's, that Merdinger is better than Jake Merklinger, who went to Tennessee, who committed to Tennessee, who Carolina was courting pretty heavily for a while. So
interesting.
They may not even need it. May turn out they don't need to go into the portal to get a quarterback next December. So that's kind of where things stand on the portal front with football.
Yeah, Merdinger, just to stay on that for a second, he's an interesting situation because, I mean, how often do you see a guy like him commit to a program like North Carolina and have, not even started his high school? I know you had a really good guy in front of him, but it's just, he's a very interesting situation in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You don't see it very often.
He was the backup at Cardinal Gibbons, which is a good program, and he was a backup to a guy who had committed and signed last fall, I guess it is, or last December with Central Florida.
Yeah.
So he's headed to Central Florida now. Merdinger did start one game. He passed for over 700 yards, but he's in a program where loyalty is huge. They play the older guys, and he had a big-time player in front of him. But he's incredibly talented. Chip Lindsey watched him at the Elite 11, and he was a top passer at the Elite 11 in Orlando this year, which tells you something big time. And Chip Lindsey watched 10 guys throw this spring, and Merdinger was by far the one who graded out the highest. And so, just for the sake of some people who didn't see or watch or hear our commitment podcast that Dean and I did about Merdinger, the process very quickly was, think about who had to sign off on him before they actually offered about a month ago, I guess it was. You have Lindsey, who's been around for a long time and actually recruited the kid that went to Central Florida when he was at Central Florida. So he'd seen Merdinger a lot before Merdinger visited Chapel Hill here 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then was offered that weekend and committed a couple days later. You have Clyde Christensen, who's coached legends. He signed off on it. You have Freddie Kitchens, who's coached all pro guys. He signed off on it. Mm-hmm. And you have Mac Brown, who's a legend. He signed off on it. And then you have Sparky Woods signed off on it. And you also have Daryl Moody, who was an NFL scout for 19 years. He signed off on it. So he's going to move up. He'll be a 4-star kid, perhaps by the next Rivals rankings. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge find. And that's one of the things that is a shift that they've made with recruiting is they're really relying more heavily than ever before on self-scouting. Their analysis of it, they're looking more at these kids on film and getting to see them in person. And they're relying more on that than maybe ever before because they have more eyeballs. Mm-hmm. They're bringing in the Ted Monachinos and the Clyde Christensens, and they have other people in the program who have eyeballs on kids. So people fixate on rankings, and we do rankings-related reports. Dina does that the day after a kid commits because that tells you something, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. Mm-hmm. So I think a very fascinating change with the football program is their approach to recruiting. And Dean and I did a podcast about that. We'll do some more, so you can go look for one of those on our channel on our site and get more information about that. But I think Merdinger is a perfect example of that. Yeah.
No, it's guys Carolina fans should be excited about because of, like you said, he's going to rise up in the rankings, really talented kid. And if you got guys like that signing off of him, I mean, there's obviously something there that they really like about him. And AJ, real quickly, I want to talk about some of the analysts real quick, and then we'll talk about some offensive lineman depth. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, RogueShop.com. Been sponsoring the UNC football show for a long time now, specializing in top shelf family grown hemp products, CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9, tinctures, oils, gummies, candies, flour, creams. I mean, they got it all. AJ, I was actually using the cream yesterday because I hurt my wrist doing something. I'm not sure what it was, but it's been a little iffy the past few days. Putting some of that cream on, and AJ, feeling good right now. No pain at all. So it's amazing quality stuff. And they really do have some awesome.
I'm
awesome
a cream guy.
Yeah.
I'm a cream guy. And I used to use the oil a lot more than I do now.
CBD.
Because especially like during the season, because I have a tough time falling asleep during the season because it's just
especially after a game. It's impossible.
Well, yeah. After a game, I try to go to sleep at 6 and I got to be up at 10 and there's just too much on the mind. It's kind of hard. The oil helps. So those are the two products that I have fancied myself.
No, they're fantastic.
I've tried a couple of the other ones, but I don't have as much a need for the other ones, but I definitely have a need for the cream and the oil.
Yeah, no, it's all fantastic stuff. I've been able to try a few of their products as well, and everything I've ever tried is top of the line. It's really good, tastes good. If you're consuming it like that, it's just all really, really good stuff. Make sure you use that promo code Tar Heels 10 to save. Link is in the description below. Big thank you to Rogue Shop for continuing to sponsor us. And AJ, let's talk about Clyde Christensen and Ted Monachino. I know you talked about Christensen a little bit earlier, but I know from some of the intel you've gotten from some really well-sourced people around the program that, they've been doing a fantastic job and just really happy with what they're bringing. We've talked about them at length before this podcast about just the benefit of having experienced guys like that in the room as analysts to kind of lead you along the way and provide you with insight that you maybe wouldn't have thought of because of their just a vast amount of experience, especially at the NFL level. So talk to me about some of the intel you got on them and any idea maybe how long they might be around? Because we do see one thing with analysts, I guess maybe a negative of them. You do see a lot of analysts kind of come and go. They usually don't stick around for too long. So any insight you can give us on that would be interesting to hear.
I'll start with Ted Monachino, who's brought in. He's a rush end specialist. So he's a guy that when you're North Carolina and you don't consistently get pressure on the quarterback, especially conventionally, hey, let's bring this guy in, have him help our players, and also Tim Cross, the defensive line coach. And the most important thing here, excuse me, is the relationship with Tim Cross. And everybody has an ego and everybody has comfort. And I would imagine that most of the people listening or watching this, they've been in a work environment where this is applied to them, or they've seen it close to somebody else in their work situation where maybe someone gets brought in to help the situation, improve the situation. And it could be difficult because the perception might be the message is being sent that they're not doing a good enough job, or they might not receive the assistance as well as perhaps they should. So I'm using that as an example because that's a little bit what happened here with Tim Cross. There were a lot of reports that Cross was going to be let go after last season, and we reported that he was not, and we were right. And part of the reason was because the kids love him, staff loves him. He's a great teammate on the staff, but he needed to shore up certain areas. And Monachino came in to help with that. And everything that I have heard from extremely well sourced is that the relationship is fantastic, that Tim Scott has been phenomenal. And he has really, Tim Cross, excuse me.
All good. I didn't even know that's Scott, to be honest.
It's Tim Cross. I guess sometimes I follow politics. I guess there's political stuff in my head here. But Tim Cross, pardon me, that the relationship has been phenomenal. And he has made some of the adjustments he needed to make. And really, it wasn't that Ted Monachino came in to reshape Tim Cross. It was more had to help that side of the room because they're bringing in more analysts to help things. They trusted Chip Lindsey, but you bring in Clyde Christensen, right? Because you can. If you can add Ted Monachino to your staff in some capacity for a season, you do that because everywhere he has gone, there have been immediate results. So when I watched them this spring, I could see some differences there with that position, with that element of what they're doing. And some of the guys have really spoken very highly about some of the different things they're doing. I don't know all the specifics about what's different, but a lot of it is minutia about pass rushing and also it's kind of how pass rushing the end works with the tackle, and everybody kind of has a role. And I think there was sometimes a lack of discipline up front before where guys try to do too much instead of staying in their lane, so to speak. So I think that that's been a huge, huge plus. So the relationship with Cross has been fantastic. The players have received it well. And Monachino's been really good in that coaching room. He and Christensen have done a good job of critiquing how the staff goes about their business in the room, not so much on the field as much as in the room, about how they hold meetings, about how they plan, how they dissect film, and some of the things that they look for. So it isn't just to get the players better. It isn't just to get the coaches to coach better, but coaching begins with evaluation of your own self, your own work, your own film, your own practices. So the positive starts there, and it's really tenfold, if you will. And I think that they've been very, very pleased with what he's brought. Long term, I don't think so. He's probably here for a year, probably move on. But the impact, I think, will be felt for a while because Tim Cross is a better coach now than he was before Monachino came in. Mm-hmm. As far as Christensen goes, man, he's coached legends. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. He was just coaching Tom Brady 6 months ago.
Yeah, it speaks for itself.
So, so it's great for Drake. Now, he can't technically coach Drake on the field. Not yet. Mac thought that was going to be passed back in April. It wasn't passed yet. It's ridiculous that it's not passed. The NCAA approves everything else, but they haven't approved that. If and when they do, I think that's going to be a boon for UNC football. I really do, because Christensen, unlike Monachino, might be around for a while. You know, he went to Carolina. He was a backup quarterback at Carolina. His wife's family is from, I think, Winston-Salem. I think that they wanted to settle down here. His NFL days are probably over, but he still wants to be involved, but maybe doesn't want to work 120 hours a week. Maybe he's okay working just 75 hours a week. So I think he's going to be around for a while. And his impact, again, has to do so much with quarterback footwork and release and timing and vision and reads and all that kind of stuff. But he's coaching Chip Lindsey as well. And he's also coaching that room. I think when you have a set of eyes like that, something he's going to see that maybe nobody else does is that little thing that takes you from 9 wins to 10 or 11, which is what their obvious stated mission is. So he's probably going to be around for a while, and I think he will help Carolina unbelievably. I think the offseason for Mac with his staff has not been talked about enough, and I think it's an A+. I really do. The changes that were made, and I thought Phil Longo did a phenomenal job. There were a couple things everybody could pick at. Fine. And it was time for Phil to move on. I get it. I think Chip Lindsey's a really good replacement. I think Clements at offensive line coach, phenomenal. I think the change that they made on the defensive side of the ball at cornerback coach, I think that was time to make that move, and it was a very, very good move. And then bringing in Monachino and Christensen, to me, those were grand slams out of the park. Yeah. That was Aaron Judge, 550 feet out of the stadium. And I think we will see the result of that this coming season.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. I think he's had a fantastic, and it hasn't been talked enough. I know we've talked about it a lot, and we've praised Mac for what he's done in the offseason with these staff additions, but I think it's something that's been overlooked a little bit. Because fans like to, rightly so, like to focus on the personnel, the players, who's going out there on Saturdays and playing, but you got to have guys in that room that are coaching them. And if you can bring not only legends that they have on the staff now, but just experienced NFL guys, to me, that's just it's a massive plus. Those are the kind of guys you want on your staff. And those are the kind of guys that take your program from maybe here to here. And then even if they leave, you can still kind of build on that with what they brought and how
the value in having Monachino around for 12 months, whatever it's going to be, 10 months, 12 months is immeasurable. It really is. Yeah. And my understanding is Christensen right now, the plan is he's not going anywhere for a while, so they could have him for a few years.
That's great.
That's guys, think about that room, and don't discount Gene Chizik on here with looking at quarterbacks and stuff, because he can watch a kid and say, okay, I see this from a defensive coordinator's perspective. I see this. So there is a lot more of that going on with this staff now than they ever had before. And they also have more dudes in that room.
Yeah.
We talk about dudes in the position groups. That conference room just off Mac's office, okay, up there on the floor where the coaches' offices are. Imagine that conference room when you've got Mac Brown and Gene Chizik and you've got Clyde Christensen and Ted Monachino, okay? And I'm going to throw Chip Lindsey in there. Freddie Kitchens, who is a head coach in the NFL. Yeah. And you've got all those dudes in there. Mm-hmm. That's a room. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. That's really impressive. I don't care who you are. I don't care what program you care about. I don't care what conference you think cares more. There's a lot of schools in every conference that would be highly impressed to have a group like that discussing football on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Real quickly, AJ, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes, but I know we've got a little bit of intel on Diego Pounds and Trevion Green in terms of the rotation down at that offensive line position. So real quickly, what kind of insight can you give us? Because when you look at those two guys, if you had to pick maybe some guys that were on the periphery that could step up and maybe get in that rotation, I don't think either of those names would surprise us or maybe even surprise a bunch of fans because I think they are talented kids.
Yeah, I think we did a pod at the end of spring where we were trying to figure out, okay, we've got 6 that we can identify in the rotation, but they want a minimum of 8. So who's 7 and 8? And watching practice and some of the intel we got then I was thinking, okay, maybe Eli Sutton is coming a lot at one of the tackle spots, but he's maybe not quite there. So one of the things I've learned recently is that Diego Pounds and Trevion Green are going to get on the field because they have to. Maybe they're not 1,000% ready by the opener to have a couple of series, but they have to play them because they're going to lose a lot of offensive linemen after this season. They're going to need some guys with experience. And also, coaches have to consider with certain position groups, certain guys, not the guys so much, but the position groups of the portal. So you got to play them because they're going to be sought after because both of them are very, very talented. Both of them will be starting offensive linemen at the major college level for a couple of seasons at the minimum, probably 3 seasons. Both of them have potential NFL futures. So if they're not going to get on the field much at Carolina and they were to enter the portal, they would be in high demand, and the value of those guys would be significant. So significant that it would be hard for North Carolina with its current collective situation in football, which we'll do a podcast on later this season when I get even more intel on that. It's an issue, and Carolina fans need to understand it's an issue. But they would be hard pressed to be able to go out and get both in the portal at the same time, given the price tag. Mm-hmm. So keep them in house, play them, get them ready because they are close, and they'll know, hey, I'm getting on the field. I'm learning from Randy Clements. I got a great opportunity to be a starter next year. There's no need to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So that's what part of it is now at certain position groups. People would be amazed, as I alluded to earlier, how much offensive lineman command in the portal.
It's insane.
It's insane. It's absolutely, the whole thing is insane. But so they have to go about things accordingly. So right now, don't be surprised to see them get a couple of series in the South Carolina game. If there's anybody else coming, I think Eli Sutton, they're figuring they can probably get a couple of years out of him. He's a little bit more behind. The other guys got a long way to go.
Yeah. And
that includes Zach Rice, because people go, well, why don't they mention Zach Rice?
He's a hot topic.
It's just, everyone's got their own timetable. That's the thing that can be frustrating as someone who covers a team like we do, that people expect everyone to be on the same timetable. They do it with basketball, they do it with football. And every player is like a fingerprint. They're unique, and they have unique timetables, and they have unique things that they must get worked through in order to get on the field. Zach is no different. Just because recruiting services had him rated so high, just because when you and I saw him in camp that one day up in Virginia a few years ago, he looked amazing, but that's against nobody. Mm-hmm. He's got to improve footwork. He's got to get stronger. He's got to get meaner, all those kinds of things. And that comes. Offensive linemen sometimes take a few years. Yeah. And that's okay. Because what matters most is the end game. Where are they at the end when their time is up, and if they're a pro prospect or not? What were they able to provide you, and where are they in their development? So, and it's also the hardest position group to project because a guy in Zach Rice's case in high school, he's going up against a lot of dudes that looked like me when I was in high school. So he's just throwing around like ragdolls. Right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to always exercise some of the technique and some of the brute strength and a lot of those things that he will have to once he gets into college. So he's on a process. People need to pump the brakes there and just see what happens with him this fall as well. The reason I brought him up is because people are going to ask anyway. So might as well answer now.
No, it's, he's a 5-star recruit. People want to know about guys like that, understandably so. And I think there will be a time where he, I know his development's taking a little bit longer than some people expected and wanted. But again, like you said, everybody's on a different timetable. And, I firmly believe there will be a time where he's in North Carolina and it is a really, good player and maybe rotational option or starter down there for North Carolina. But again, everybody's timetable is different. So just got
the opportunities there
to develop.
Jacob,
yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. The opportunity is there. Just allow it to play off, but to play itself out, just pump the brakes. Don't get on Mac. Don't get on Clements. Don't get on Zach. Just let it play out. Let them breathe and have this thing play out, and we'll see where he is down the road.
Talent's definitely there. AJ, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. I think we're about at the 27, 28 minute mark, give or take a few. So that's not bad though. I think under 30 for a football show.
Out, so that's an automatic ball.
Yep. And we try a lot of stuff to talk about though, a lot of different things. And we talked about the staff, so many different kind of alleyways you can go down when talking about that. But again, I'll take under 30 minutes any day of the week, especially during the off season. So we'll go ahead and get the heck out of here before we go over the 30-minute mark. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Appreciate y'all watching another episode of the UNC Football Show. Again, make sure you check out ropeshot.com. Links in the description below. Use that promo code TARHEELS10 to save on your order. I mean, if you can save a little bit of money, you got to take advantage of that, guys. So again, click the link below. You'll find all the info you need to head on over to Rogue Shop. Big thank you to them for continuing to sponsor. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell because we are dropping a daily drop pretty much every day during the week. So make sure you keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com for all your coverage this offseason. Appreciate you watching. See you on the next one. Thanks.